Okay, cool. So Keenan, I'm gonna let you kick this off. So we're doing this like riffing style, guys. So please, if you have thoughts, drop them in the chat. We'll throw them into the conversation. Keenan, over to you.
Yeah, perfect. And everybody, look, I'm going to stop. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to be like, what do you guys think? I don't like to sit and talk to people. My kids will tell you that's not true. Dad'll just sit and yap at us all day long. But I really prefer the interaction. I really prefer people's insights. I like to be challenged. I like people to ask questions and go deeper. I don't handle superfluous conversations very well. So let's just get at it. Let's have fun with it. So all that to be said is, look, Gap Revenue Performance is my new book. As I've told you, I wrote it because I recognized, and I'm already going to piss a lot of people off, but I noticed that sales enablement is not working. It's not working. Now, every time I say that, everybody's going to raise their hand. Well, mine is, and mine is. Okay, great. Okay, great. So whenever that happens, it reminds me of an old, I don't know what you call it, phrase or whatever. But have any of you heard the whole argument that if you ask 1,000,000 people if they believe in aliens, something like 99.9% will say yes to some degree. But if you told that same group you saw an alien, 99.9% would never believe you, right? So there's this interesting paradigm we have in the world. So when I tell people it's failing and I show them the numbers, they don't argue, but it's not them. It's not them. It's everybody else around them. So I wrote this to shine a light on enablement, not to indict the profession, because I think the profession is amazing, but to call it out so that we can fix it. Because at the end of the day, enablement is not about L&D. It is not about teaching. It should be about performance. Did we get the behaviors to deliver? Can we get somebody just went off mute?
Guys, let's sure to put yourselves on mute, please.
And,
thank you.
And see if there was if people had followed their own rules.
Trying to find.
I think that's L.
Thing I know is
I think it's
changed
L,
it. So I don't know really what happened.
There we go.
There you go. Thanks. Okay.
Yeah. No
so, Sean, next slide. All right. Yeah, you can skip over me. Who cares about me? Okay. So here, think about this. 63% of people 17 years ago or 15 years ago were making quota. Now it's down to 16%. Think about that. So on average, very few organizations are making quota now, right? 86% of B2B purchases stall before no decision. 65% of enablement content never gets used. Reps have 2 to 3 times more tools now than they had before, right? And it's all quoted down there. It's all sourced. So if you'd be like, what is he talking about? Feel free to check it out. But the bottom line is, and this next slide says it all. In 2012, the sales teams were doing better than when we started getting enablement involved. And it's right around 2017 where the switch happens. So that's the main reason I wrote the book. And by the way, I know some people are already thinking, yeah, well, quotas getting raised without reason, and so you can blame people raising quotas, et cetera. Okay, yes, that's part of it. But in addition, win rates have also declined by, I believe, 27%. The average sales cycle has extended 38 days. So all of the sales metrics are in trouble, not just quota attainment, which I understand can be the result of just people putting unrealistic quotas on us. So I'm going to stop there for a second and ask you guys, how many of you believe this? How many of you experience this? And what do you guys think the issue is? Anyone?
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, feel free to drop that in the chat and I'll read them out, guys. Don't be shy. Okay. So yes, effectiveness of sales rep. Believe it, experienced it. I think it's alignment. Okay. In times of desperation, our outreach doesn't include any value. Amy, that's an interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
Activity is taking priority over effectiveness, Keenan.
Yep. So let's go with it's the effectiveness of the sales reps. So, what do you think What is it about the effectiveness of the salespeople? Whose job is it, right? Michelle, whose job is it to make the reps effective?
Oh, putting me on the spot. Well, I mean, right off the bat, it's like, oh, we're enablement. It's our jobs to enable them to be more effective, right?
Mm-hmm. It's our
But
job. Yeah, no, there is no but. It is our job. If there is no enablement team, that's a different story. But if you're working in enablement and you're inside an organization, and that organization is not at quota, if that organization is not driving the pipeline, if that organization does not have win rates that are at least above 25%, if the sales cycles are long, if you're seeing stuck with declining ASP, if CAC is high,
Mhm.
you should take it personally. You should absolutely positively take it personally. Because what we've done and what I write in the book and what I have identified as the problem is sales enablement was hired as a learning and development role. Okay? Now, that makes sense. I'm doing sales training. Okay? Creating what do you call those things? Practice areas. Like I'm creating playbooks. Okay, good. So it's learning and development. But when they started hiring for the role and started defining the role, they were taking people out of learning and development environments from universities or people L&D degrees and experience. Does anybody want to share why I think that's a problem? Christy G, I saw you shaking your head, so I'll put you on the spot.
Well, I don't necessarily think it's a problem. It can be beneficial, right, to have that paired potentially. That's my background, coaching and facilitation, but then I got into sales. So, so having that, I can come at this with a seller's lens, knowing the pain of too much content, too many initiatives, rather than just focusing on selling. Right. So,
Yeah.
but I think to your point about learning and development, it does help to understand that people learn differently. So and to understand what a traditional seller needs for support. And I don't know that just because you came from sales, you might get it, right? But there are different sales types from different environments.
Okay. So no, it's a good take. I like we went there. And I think you added a handful of unique elements. And I think they're all valid. The crux or core of where I go in the book and why I believe the L&D function, if you will, isn't working is because by definition, L&D is not designed to equate to performance. Right. And so I mean no disrespect to anybody here, and our universities are the same. And by the way, everybody, I see nothing wrong with the acquisition of knowledge. I see nothing wrong with that. Like, I'm a huge knowledge guy. But when it comes to performance, L&D was not designed to teach, measure, evaluate, and then drive to the performance angle. It was designed to make sure that I understand it. It comes from universities, right? Universities can get away with this. Universities can graduate people every freaking day. They'll get their hundreds. I laugh. I got two kids in college. What about? They're stupid $100,000 a year. But do you think they give a shit? Do you think there's anything built into what they teach you that translates to this person performing at a high level in that space? And the answer is no. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but the answer is no. So what I recognized is in order for sales enablement to work, and the reason it went in the other direction is a whole bunch of besides just enablement, is we weren't built to translate everything we were training them into actual performance. And when you're not built and trained on performance, that leaves a gap. So there were two events in my life, but I'll only share one, that triggered this for me. And it just took a while to get to write the book. We were selling to a large Fortune 1,000, probably maybe 500. We were a finalist. And now in gap selling, if you've read the book Gap Selling, you have to sell to a problem. And so we were really struggling. And by the way, enablement was leading the buying process. So we were pushing really hard. So what is the business problem you're struggling with? And they just couldn't give us numbers. They couldn't say something like, yeah, we've noticed our win rate has gone down 25% over X period of time, and that's cost us approximately, 75 to 150 million. Or they couldn't say something like, our sales team is discounting really high on an average of 22%. Like, they couldn't give us any of the real sales numbers. And so at one point I said, so you don't measure anything? And the head of enablement stood up and said, oh, yes, we do. And our numbers are getting better every year. And okay, great. So what are you measuring? Certification completions.
Oh, God.
This woman for a Fortune 1000 company literally felt that they were doing a good job because their completion and participation numbers were going up, and had no clue or insight to how that translated into quota attainment as a whole, quota attainment as a percentage of the sales team, average sales price over a 1, 3, 5 year period, average time to close or sales cycle, CAC, none of it. None of it. And I'll never forget sitting there thinking, one, we're going to lose this deal. The minute she said, I knew we were going to lose this deal. Two, I started asking sales enablement people every time I went out on site. And without a doubt, about finger in the air, 30% of the time, they could actually tell me what the business sales metrics were that they were moving and how they moved them. The rest of the time, they would always speak about completions, playbooks, all of the stuff.
Keenan,
So I think, yes.
I want to throw this out to you. There was something in the chat here. Knowing is not the same as doing. I think that that's a really important one. There is an entire field of experiential education. If you have expertise there, you'll have an easier understanding of how to solve for performance measurement.
Christine, fantastic. I actually talk about it in the book. I can't see her lovely face wherever she is. Come on, Christine. Come on and get credit for that. I got to see you. Wait. Yay! Nice. Yes, we actually talk about that in the book and break down how you translate. So what we do is we go from knowing to doing to performing, right? So it sounds like you're very familiar with this concept. So it's one thing to know, it's nothing to do it, but then to be able to do it well and do it repetitively. And Christine, I'd love your thoughts on this. Doing it under pressure. You want to share your thoughts there, Christine?
Yeah, I was just popping on. So the metric that I've used for a long time in terms of when I think about how you move performance is know, say, sell. So the first element is you have to know it. Like, you have to understand the concepts or understand the things. You have to be able to say it. So that's where I would use like more of, role plays, manager-led pieces, things that you're demonstrating the skill prior to you actually getting on the phone. And that's where I would look at like that pressure testing. I like the idea of maybe how do you, again, like what elements, depending on the performance you're trying to drive, what elements need additional focus kind of here or there, in terms of that say sell piece. But I think that's where most people kind of drop the ball. And there's elements that I'm guilty of too, for lots of reasons, that you never make it past the no stage. You do something and you think that event is like when they know it. But that's the element of performance, is that if it doesn't actually show up in the number that you're tracking, which is why that number is so important, and having alignment with the leadership team that's the number you're going to move. If it doesn't move, you haven't done anything. So it's
Christine, yes, Michelle.
No, I was just saying, hallelujah,
yeah.
Girl. 100%.
Yes. So Christine, you actually just triggered something in me, and I really appreciate this. I probably should have put more in my book, but I am in Utah right now. I'm not at my home. And where I'm at is the Utah Olympic Park. Oh, Amy, are you in Utah? Yeah, all right. I'm right down here in Kimball Junction. I'm at the UOP, right? My daughter is a competitive mogul skier, and she was just actually, I got to be proud of that here. She was just named, she's only 16, but she was just named to the U.S. Olympic development team. So she's working her way up. Anyways, where am I going with this? When they're water ramping, so any mogul skiing, you have to do airs. And some of these airs get complicated. And at this stage in how kids are doing things, you just can't go out and do it on the snow. You'll kill yourself. Like, they're so difficult, we know you're going to mess up, right? So what Christine just talked about, and where I was going to create this parallel, is my daughter first knows, we'll talk about a cork 7. Don't worry about it. It means a very, very difficult off-axis trick. You go up, you go sideways, spin 3 times, and come back up, okay? She knows it. The first time she goes off the water ramp, what do you think happens? It is not pretty, right? Like she goes up, she tries it, she's in different contorted positions, boom, hits the dust, okay? That's why the water's there, to protect her, okay? So this is a watch what I'm doing, everybody. This is a training environment, okay? And I'm going to show you this in a bit about the underlying operating system, but that's a training environment. She comes out of the water, she goes to the coach says what he sees, he asks her how she felt, you know what I'm saying? Like she's still, the body's trying to figure it out, like it's going from the knowing to doing, right, Christine? The body's trying to figure it out. She goes up, she does it again, still all over the place, but fixes something. So after constant repetition, which we could call this the role plays or something like that, right? That's still in the training or skills development box or layer, right? Eventually, she starts getting it to the point that the coaches and everybody feel comfortable that she can take it to snow. So now this is no longer in the skills development box or training. This is actually a real world, real environment situation. Like you can get hurt. Like the snow is there. It's different conditions. Everybody see where I'm going with this, right? So that her whole process has been, first you got to get to a certain level of proficiency and comfort from the knowing and doing to, now I want to see you do it in a real life setting. And then she has to do it there multiple times. She has to ski. Sometimes it's what's called a bumpless jump. So it's just a smooth in run. You do it, smooth out run. Then they move over to the mogul course and you ski 3 or 4 bumps. And then you do it. Then you go higher up, ski more bumps. Then you do it. You see where that progression in that situation. And then every time there's a feedback loop with her coach. What is working? What didn't? How'd you mess up? And then from there, the next one is competition ready. When it's competition ready is the only time you can take it to competition. And then as you can imagine, when you take it to competition, your score is going to be fairly low, 4, 5. And then the rest of the training is how do I get it to a 6, a 7, an 8? And now that's in the performance category. Does everybody see what I did right here? And I'm going to translate that to what we call the PCOS in a second. You have a skills layer which starts with, do I teach you what you need to do? No. And can I give you the insight and ability to practice what I taught you in a safe, see what I did there? Because my kid would probably be paralyzed right now if she had to learn that shit on the snow, okay? So in a safe environment where I as a coach and other people can watch your progression in that safe skills layer. Then from there we move to what we'll call a real-time or semi-game time environment where you're actually doing it in the scenario that you would do it in real life. And I can watch you there and do the same thing there. And then finally, am I watching you excel in the perfect environment? And am I helping you get better at that environment? Does that make sense to everybody? So Christine, your comment was fantastic. Yes, Michelle.
I was going to say, one of the things, if you're ready, there is another comment in here that kind of ties into this a little bit because your daughter is determined to do well in this competition. So she is going to do the practice. She is going to try and perfect, right? Yeah. There's a comment in here that talks about leaders, if they don't hold what enablement has been taught accountable to those reps, obviously there's not going to be improvement. So
100%.
I'd love to hear your thoughts after you finish this one on leadership and holding those reps accountable. Whose responsibility is that? And how do we make that happen, you know?
Yes. So it is no questions asked. Great question, Michelle. Sir, I hope I got it right. Sir. 100%. I believe, though, or the way I look at it is both leadership as in the CRO, CEO, depending on the level of the organization, their job is to hold revenue performance, revenue enablement, whatever you want to call it, accountable. But it's also the revenue enablement person's job to hold them accountable. There has to be a collaborative commitment to the numbers. And so one of the things that I have seen is the CRO and the CEO, they just see them as training people. And we've put ourselves in that position on our own, whether we did it by accident, whether we did it on purpose, we own that piece because we've come in and we've used nomenclature and we've used vernacular and we've used terms about training and certifications and playbooks, etc. And we haven't come in with an operating system or a method that says, this is what I'm going to move, and we are going to drive these sales metrics, and here are the tools, the systems, approaches we're going to do it, and this is how we know it's working. And so it requires both of them to get on the same page. CROs have to understand that they need to invest in enablement in a way that's going to drive the number, but enablement has to accept that and understand it is not about playbooks. And as I said in the very beginning, if the numbers aren't where they are, you should be embarrassed. You should be pissed off. And you should not be able to hide behind all of the L&D traditional metrics, retention, scores, certifications, playbooks created. No. You have one job. Move the freaking number. I literally look at enablement as like the anybody who follows football, I'm sorry, it's just the best metaphor of all of the coaches on the field. Right? So you have the head coach, yes, and you have the general manager. But to me, enablement is like the defensive coordinator and the line coach and the offensive line coach and the safeties coach. Their job is to take somebody and say, hey, yo, this is how you read the defense. Hey, yo, this is how you move in this position under these circumstances. Hey, yo, and they make them try it over and over and over, and they measure performance, and they measure what their behavior is, and then back to performance. They have a whole system that ties what you're supposed to do, the performance it takes, the behavior it takes, where they have a gap, that individual or individuals, and then shows them how to get to the performance layer and deliver.
Keenan, I want you to respond to an argument that popped up from Blake. The argument is this all assumes that companies are willing to make the space and time to take reps off the floor long enough to train them, all while companies are scrambling to add new functionality with product releases, etc. So getting everyone to performance level is going to be looked at as time consuming and runs the risk of getting bumped for other priorities.
Yes. I wish I had a good answer. So that is a phenomenal observation. Celeste and Sean, who work with me, they will contest that it's one of the things that drives me crazy. The sales organization is the sales world, and I'm in it. So, everybody can get mad at me. We are some of the most industrious, creative people. Get pounded every day because we miss sales. We go through punishment. It's not a glorious job, but we're also a bunch of idiots. We are some of the dumbest people in the world when it comes to being operationally effective, and it drives me absolutely insane. So the answer is damn straight CROs and CEOs got to get their head out of their asses and stop thinking that work, harder, and I'm going to get there. And the metaphor or story I tell really quickly, and any of you can steal this when you bump into a CRO and say, you know what, my man, or sister, I love that you want to get this done, but you're showing me your lack of leadership when you say taking the team out of the field to get better is a problem. You're showing your lack of leadership. Unless what you're teaching them is shit. That's a different story and you own that. But here's my story. Some of you may have heard of it. It's the old SAW tree cutting down championship, right? And hundreds of people come from all around the world. And it's the two-man saw thing. You have one guy on each end, one person on each end, right? And they're sawing away. And whoever cuts the most trees wins. And these one guys, they're sawing as fast as they can. And they're moving, they're cutting, they're cruising. And every once in a while, they look up to the guys next to them and they're having a drink. They're hanging out. And they're like, they stopped. And then they're going harder and harder, and they see the other guys, and then they look over again, and they stopped again. And then when the whole thing is done, the guys were going crazy, they didn't win. The guys who kept taking breaks won. And they were like, how did you guys do this? I don't understand. We worked our ass off, and every time we looked up, you had stopped. And you know what the answer is? You guys know this one? The guys said, yeah, every time we stopped, we were sharpening the saw. If you work for an organization that does not recognize that sharpening the saw is the most effective way to deliver on your outcomes, you're working for an organization that has a leadership issue. This is leadership 101. Okay, maybe 201. This is not leadership 10,002, and this is some brand new thing. This is the thing that drives me crazy about corporate America. We are so under pressure to drive the revenue. We're creating the very problems that are preventing us from driving the revenue. It's insanity to me.
100%.
I mean, yes, go.
We have a comment in here. It's so true. If sales was treated like a sport and salespeople were treated like athletes, we'd all be far better at it.
Amen.
100%.
100,000%. Sean, if you can move the slides, but keep going. So yes, whoever asked the question is correct. You have to stop and, oh my God, you have to stop and sharpen the saw. It is our job as enablement folks to make sure that not only are we sharpening the saw, that we know how to do it efficiently, we know how to do it effectively, and we can demonstrate that it's cutting the tree faster because of the breaks. That's the key piece. It has to be good enough to show that.
Question in the chat, how do you decide when to stop and sharpen the saw?
Okay, great question, a good lead. When the numbers aren't there. Like you need to be connected to the numbers, right? So I won't spoil, but I talk about this in the book. I don't use a lot of sports analogies in the book, but I open the book with a really powerful sports analogy. You need to stop to sharpen the saw when you realize the saw. Oh God, Susie sells seashells at the seashore, right? You need to stop and sharpen the saw when you see the numbers are declining or they're not moving at the right rate. But I personally believe that you should always be sharpening the saw. Always, right? So if you constantly have a rhythm, and this is what we're going to talk about now, if you have a rhythm or a process that ensures the saw is getting sharpened continuously, you know what and how to sharpen it properly, and you know when the appropriate time to stop is or how long to stop, and you know what the effect of the saw is on the wood. Like there's a system you can build that maximizes that effort, and that's what it's all about. So I've been saying that we don't really have a training problem. We have a system problem. We haven't built the underlying operating system that maximizes the output of the sales team. So Sean, next one. Okay, so one of the things we found out in the book, or that we described in the book, is there are 4 types of sales organizations, or 4 enablement organizations, or whatever you want to call it. There's the random, which is basically enablement is constantly cranking shit out, right? You got a new playbook that you put out, you got a new training you got, or someone calls them and says, I want you to train them on this, or you've got a new tool you've put in, like you're constantly doing stuff. So this is the cool part. It's not no one's doing anything. It's just there's a new initiative every couple of weeks or every couple of quarters. It's just boom, 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 boom. But nothing's connected to anything. There's no real underlying method that says I did this to move this because of this behavior. And that goes back to what some of the things people were talking about before about understanding the problem. I think Christy said something about that, is about understanding the problem. A lot of it is random, is very reactive. And we see a lot of that. Okay. The next one is heroic. This is also very common, and I think it's very cultural. This is when the CRO is more involved. He or she is like, end of the quarter. The best time you know when you're heroic is if 80% of your deals close at the end of the quarter, and oh, by the way, like 15 to 20% of deals that were pulled from the quarter pulled forward, that the CRO is getting on phone calls. The last month, they're constantly, what's the word I'm looking for? Getting involved and getting other people involved and doing everything they can. The last month and last 3 weeks of a quarter are just absolutely bananas, right? Then you know you're in heroic. Does this sound familiar to any of you guys? Do any of you guys touch base with heroic? Hold on one second. Sorry, guys. Does this sound familiar to anybody?
Absolutely. I'm sure
Everybody's
there are people
quiet on
nodding.
that one. No one wants to raise their hand for that.
People are nodding behind their cameras, I'm sure.
Okay. All right. Okay. Now, the next one we recognize is the Peacock. And this one I find fascinating. And it took me a little while to get my arms around it. And I can't tell you the percentage of people that are Peacocks. And by the way, every org has a little bit of these. So it's not just one. And we'll show you a way for your organization to test where you are as well. But Peacock is not uncommon. It's just not the most common. Peacock is where you have really, really smart people who've really given a lot of time to the initiatives and to the things. So they have everything. Like They have the beautiful playbooks. They have the fantastic training. They have the fantastic training cadence. They have the excellent certifications. They have it all, but it's just not connected to anything. It doesn't move the number. The number goes up and down. If the number moves, they're not exactly sure. Was it because the training failed? Is it because the tool's not working? Like it's what is it? Like the last mile wasn't plugged in, right? They built the whole network and they just missed the last mile. Okay, and that's a real fascinating one. And that one's a dangerous one because people can think they've got it nailed. I can think of a couple people right now off the top of my head, I will not name names, where I've talked to and I know it's not connected, but they just, with such pride, that's the Peacock, right? With such pride, they look me in the eye and say, we have all that, we are killing it. And I just know that they didn't get the last mile. Okay. So this is what we've recognized is that because of where we've driven ourselves into these 4 types of orgs. And the question is, which one are you? And once you know that, you can start to begin to figure out how to fix it. Next one, Sean. I just talked about them, yeah. Okay, so the key to solving this is an operating system, okay? And the one we use here and the one I built for the book really requires 4 or 5 things, okay? The first one, though, is a North Star. And so this, for those of you who've read Gap Selling, this will make a lot of sense. For those who haven't, read Gap Selling. At a sales growth company, this is the name of our firm, we have built the entire company around the concept that problem-centric selling and understanding the problem or problems that your product or service solves is at the heart of everything. Literally, I know it's metaphorical, but it's the heart is understanding the problem you solve. End of the day. And so without that, everything else is a mess because you can't properly sell if you can't properly diagnose a problem. And if you can't properly diagnose a problem, you cannot properly introduce a solution that works. And if you can't properly introduce a solution that works, you can't properly differentiate. And if you can't properly differentiate, it comes down to pricing. If it's come down to pricing, it is simply an order-taking experience. And I said that fast. Feel free to go back and listen to this, but that is absolutely critical. That is sales physics. I'm known to be obnoxious when people try to argue with me on that because, like, when someone wants to argue with me on the earth is flat, I'm not going to be nice. It is not flat. I am not going to be nice. I am not going to make you feel good, and I am not going to honor your opinion. It is just a fact. And so is this idea that problem centricity is the only key and common thread at the heart of every single decision people make, not just a sale. Every decision people make starts with this perception of a problem and what is the cost to me to solve it and what is the cost if I do not solve it. And so any operating system that does not start with the problem centricity, you're already halfway cooked. Okay, as my daughter would say, I'm cooked. Right? So from there, from the North Star, the first step in the operating system is the skills layer. And where was she? Christine, she brought it up and did a fantastic job when she talked about it. And that's the part I talked about before. The skills layer is where you do all your teaching. You do all of your role plays. It's where you introduce the concept to somebody, and then you assess and give them an opportunity to practice it and try it. That's where certifications live. And by the way, there's nothing wrong with certifications, everybody. But if you've seen a theme in what I'm doing here, traditionally, and I hope some people have some questions, traditionally, we have over-indexed in the skills layer. That's where we've over-indexed, and it's great stuff in there, but we haven't done a good job of moving it into the doing piece in the opportunity layer, which I'm going to share in a second. Okay? So one of the things we teach is when you separate these and you understand each one, you can be more deliberate. So in a skills layer, I would ask an organization we're working with, okay, what are all the things someone needs to know to be a fantastic salesperson? Product knowledge. Okay, yeah, got it. Okay, so good. That's skills layer, product knowledge. Give me another one. How to use the processes. Okay, that's lame, but okay, fine. Cheats in that. What about business acumen? What do you mean business acumen? Well, if they have to be out there, shouldn't we not be teaching them on certain business principles and concepts that are fairly common to helping someone solve a difficult problem? Never thought. Okay, good. Teach them that. business acumen. Okay, the pick or the problem identification. What problems do we solve? Are we training them in those problems? How those problems manifest? How you can see and find those problems? Are we teaching it? Never thought about that. Good. Add that to your skills layer. So the skills layer forces you to think about what you should be training them. And then within that, then it forces you to assess how well they can, back to the water ramps, how well can they do it? Like Christine said, say it, practice it, use it, report it back, engage, etc. All of that's the skills layer. Okay. The next layer, is everybody with me? Do I pause? Any questions, thoughts?
No, you're good. Keep rolling.
Okay. The next one is opportunity layer. I call this game time. Okay. I would challenge everybody here. When you look at your entire enablement environment, how much of your enablement created initiatives focus on watching, engaging, evaluating, assessing, and providing support at game time? At game time. So when they're talking to the customers, when they're doing a discovery, etc. Anybody want to share? I'd be willing to bet it's less than 10%. And if I take Gong out of your organization, it's going to drop to almost 2%.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I'm sure people will come off and say, well, we listen to Gong calls, which yes, that's true, but.
Right? So the key is, look, it's okay, I get it, but the key is to build a robust opportunity layer. So it's not just enough, watch what I do here, everybody. It's not just enough to listen to Gong calls, but have you built a process that is very specific and repeatable, that every manager knows what they should be listening to in the Gong call? And so if I ask 5 different managers, will they all tell me they're looking for the same things? And if they say yes, then I say, why are those things important? And they tell you why they're important, because why? They go back to the skills layer, which goes back to the problem identification chart up to the pick. And like, oh, okay, I'm listening to see, I'm going to make this up, but I'm listening to see if they have a manufacturing defect rate of over 0.2%. Okay, so when the rep is asking questions, I'm asking, are they trying to find the manufacturer defect rate? If they aren't, why aren't they? What did I miss in the skills layer? Because they should have known that that's critical to selling. And if they are, great. How well did they do it? How did they get there? Right? Did they define it? No, they got there, but they never defined it. So they said, yes, we have a skill defect, but they never defined it. So they never defined it. We don't know if it's worth buying our product enough, because we also know that if it's not over 0.25%, the value of buying our $2 million product will not be covered. So we need only people who have that defect rate, and our sales team needs to go find it. You guys see where I'm going here? This is getting very, very prescriptive. And I can start out and move my way in. So that's the opportunity. How many processes, initiatives, and approaches am I building to help management and my team evaluate them in real time? And this is where it's connected. When I see that something is missing, I'll put you on the spot, Christine. Michelle, I'll put you on the spot. When it's missing, what should the system do?
Uncover that missing piece. It should tell you what that missing piece is.
And then?
And how to fix it.
Which is in the
playbook.
Skills layer. It's in the skills layer. See, right? It's
layer.
missing. So I'm like, oh, it's going back to sports, everybody, right? Oh, I know that Tom has missed that block 4 times. So I'm evaluating why Tom's missing the block, and I'm seeing his first step is too far out. His first step is too far out. He now no longer have leverage from the upper body, which means the defender is able to push him over, and that's happening 15% of the time on pass plays. So what do I got to do? Back to the skills layer, show him what the footwork looks like, go back to making him practice it, Christine. See what I'm saying? Make him practice it again, then put him back in the position, and now I'm specifically watching for his footwork for a while. I mean, no disrespect to everybody, but I know this is not happening 99.99% of most sales organizations. Because it's hard. Without a system, it's hard. Right?
Yeah, I was going to bring up real quick, Keenan. One of the things, especially in the opportunity layer, we have another comment from Blake. The enablement process needs to be co-authored across sales managers, CRO, RevOps, because if we just built it and then said, here, do this, there could be pushback. There could be, just unwillingness to operate within that system. And that's a tough area, right? Because once you're at the opportunity layer, if that's owned by frontline managers, you have to hope and pray that they're going to do what they're supposed to, unless they were involved.
Oh, very, very good. So shame on me. We talk about it extensively in the book, and we call the frontline managers the linchpins. Part of the training, I'm mad at myself because I don't know why I missed this. In the skills layer, there is a manager's level skill set that you need to train them on. So again, I don't want to get too complicated, but one of the things I also say in the book that's critical is everybody has to have a methodology. You must. And now, if anybody on here, this is going to be the flat earth argument. This is why I get it. Sean, I'm sorry. I'll calm down because people get mad at me. This is a flat earth comment. If you believe, you're one of those people that you don't need a methodology and everybody can sort of apply their own thing, et cetera, you were either born in 1960s like me or you're just not paying attention. Sales has become way, 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 way too complex. It has become too difficult, and you have to have a system which allows you to create repeatability. It has to be able to be repeated. You can't have the guy who sells one way leave, and then the next person comes in, and you don't know if they're doing it right or wrong. You have to no. You have to have a methodology, and you have to commit to that methodology and standardize on that methodology, which goes to the question. The organization, the CEO, the CRO, whoever's involved, they pick that methodology. That methodology then tells you what you need to be focused on, right? And by the way, MEDDIC is not a methodology. You can turn it into one, but it is not. So if you pick MEDDIC and you think that's a methodology, you're in even bigger trouble. Now, you can turn it into one, and I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody who wants to learn how to turn MEDDIC into a method, but it's not. So once you have the method that teaches you how to sell, that's what you're teaching them. So now on the manager level, you're teaching the managers what they should be looking for in those deals based on the methodology. You're teaching them a management evaluation process. We call it ODP, Observe, Describe, Prescribe, but we have one here. And you're teaching them that. So you need a manager skills element so that then you can watch them in the opportunity layer coaching their team. Everything is connected. I'm watching Christine shake her head. I'm watching Amy I think her head's about to explode. She's like, what the hell did I just sign up for, right? So great question. Yes, you have the management, but that starts in the beginning. You can't start this and try to get them involved. You get them to buy into the methodology. That becomes the guideline. They can't argue. I don't care what it is, Challenger, command of the message, gap selling, doesn't matter. But once you've all agreed to it, you know why you've agreed to it. You understand the elements of it. You see the value in the elements, and now you build from there.
Quick comment from Celeste. Touch on the importance of nailing the PIC as it relates to pull through of the OS and what we see with 99.9% of customers who attempt this.
Yes, I love Celeste. This is her bane. It drives her insane. That's why she's asking me to do it. So, and she's right. So in gap selling, and we talk about in gap prospecting, and we talk about in gap revenue performance, you have to build a problem identification chart. That's what that is. And a problem identification chart is the problems, impacts, and root causes that your product or service solves for. Okay? So you build that up front. Now, what we've learned is in most companies or product sets, is only about 3 to 5 business problems. That's all you solve. Now, if you're Unilever, that's not true. I have to go by each brand. Right, I have to pick for brand A, brand B. I can't do for the whole. It's a holding company. But for Gong, for instance, or for I don't know, GE Healthcare, which is a client of ours, what they sell can only solve 3 or 4 business problems. Then from there, you have to identify those business problems, and then you have to identify the root causes, which can be infinite, and you have to identify the impacts, which can be infinite. 99.9% of any organization we've been to, including some of the most sophisticated sales organizations in the world, have no effing clue what business problems they solve. None. They say things like, we enable XYZ. We allow people to accomplish. We help people reduce, watch this, we help people reduce their defect rate in manufacturing. Reducing a defect rate in manufacturing is not a business problem. Okay? The second thing they do is yes. Michelle?
No, I'm thinking this reminds me of your keynote a couple of years ago. You pointed out in a group of enablers, what problem do you solve? What problem do you solve? Nobody could answer the question.
Nobody could answer the question.
It was
so
insane.
Then some people, when they say they enable, that's nothing. That doesn't even show up on the pick chart. Some people jump into things like, we help people solve who are struggling with manual labor or lack of time or high expenses. Those are root causes. Root causes are not business problems. All of us live with root causes every single day. It's not until you turn that root cause into an actual business problem that people start to act. Then from the business problem, what are the impacts? The impacts are how you measure the cost of inaction. Okay, so you have to get that right in the beginning. If you don't, everything begins to fall apart. Okay, was that helpful to help you, Celeste? You feel better? Yeah, okay.
We have a good comment in here. We drive digital transformation.
Yes, thank you. Yet the person who said that believed in their heart of hearts. That's the problem they solve. Right. So yes, and they built a company around that, and don't understand why people struggle at trying to sell. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then the last one, and then we'll move, is basically the forecasting layer, and this is where the performing piece comes in. So there's nothing more predictive of the ability of someone to be performing than their actual forecasting and their delivering on their forecast. So that's where the last piece comes in. Are they performing by providing solid forecasting, solid evidence of that deal closing, why that's a good deal, why it's there at the very end? We have something called the 5 C's is the last piece of forecasting we use. You'll see it in the book. If you care, I'll answer it later. But what you'll notice is I call both. Okay, everyone write this one. This is my favorite one. I don't think I spelled enough in the book. There is both active and passive reinforcement. And the best enablement organizations build in as much passive reinforcement as possible. Does anybody want to give me a shot at what passive reinforcement is? I saw you shaking your head, Christine. I don't want to put you on the spot, but you're smart.
I know. I'm going to give you. I hope it's a good example. Passive to me means that the tools or the resources show up in places where the reps are already working. So you're not like sending an email but like they're discovering it or getting the reinforcement in their environment, is what came to mind. But I don't know if that's what you.
Okay, you're close. You're really close.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're really close. So passive reinforcement, from our definition, is you can't do a particular process. You can't do something unless you're an expert at what you've trained them. Do you see what I'm saying? So active reinforcement is, hey, I want you to do a role play, right? That's an active reinforcement. Passive says, hey, we're going to build a proposal, a framework that requires that you get all of this information. Well, if you don't know what the frick I taught you and you don't know how to do a proper discovery, what won't you have, Christine? The information to fill out the proposal. So it literally punches people in the nose as they're doing their job, because they can't do their job if they don't know how to do what you taught them. So that's passive reinforcement. A really quick, stupid example is I was a great athlete as a kid. I always say I was world class. So I was great at everything, but world class at nothing. My daughter's going to be world class at something. I was like one of the best kids on all the teams, but the one who never went to the next level in anything. Why am I trying to? Really quick, when I was playing football for the very first time, coaches started me because the kid's an athlete, flies all over the field. But I was playing football, and they put me in at running back, and they called the play. Well, I didn't understand the play, 27 pitch right or whatever, right? And I didn't understand any of that. I just said, who gets the ball? They said, you do. So I just ran and grabbed the ball, and they were screaming at me because the whole thing is designed for me to go a certain position, the quarterback to turn a certain way, to throw me the ball, the line would block accordingly, and there'd be a hole there. So because I didn't understand what the plays were, that's passive reinforcement. I couldn't do my job. No matter how fast I ran, how effective agile I was, how many tackles I broke, that's passive reinforcement. So look for those opportunities to build passive reinforcement. Did that help, Christine, and everybody else? Michael, you jumped on. You had a question? Okay, I guess not. So that's what I mean by those things. There it is. Bid, get the book. I know we're running out of time. It's just an extension of Pick. Bid is basically the customized version of Pick for every customer. So if you have 3 business problems, the Bid is one of those problems specifically and deeply defined for a specific customer. So in our world, one of our Pick is long sales cycles. Our Bid would be their sales cycles are 90 to 180 days. That's gone up 22%. It's cost them 15% of revenue over the last 2 years. So it's Pick turned into very quantifiable metrics from the buyer. Okay. Next one, Sean. Okay, so stop guessing. You can go, everybody want to take a screenshot here, you can go and find out what type of org you are. We have a million different assessments that can help you, but this one at least help you figure out who you are and where your org starts, so at least you have a benchmark. So feel free to take a picture of that and take the assessment, and I'll be really interested. Christy, what do you think you are? Do you guys think you're a random organ compounding? What do you think you are?
Oh, sorry, I clicked the wrong button. I'm actually in job search, so just left an organization, but I would guess Peacock.
Ooh, all right. The last one you were in was Peacock, huh?
Yeah.
You should take it just for the fun of it. And I think it would, believe it or not, I think it might help you with your job search is as you get in with organizations, you can ask them questions. What should I do here? This is Merry Christmas. You can start asking them questions about what you've learned today. And when they can't answer it, what do you think they're going to do?
They'll be asking me questions.
Yes, and you will have differentiated yourself from everybody else because like, wow, no one else asked us this question. We never looked at it this way. This is pretty interesting. Like all of a sudden, you're asking questions they hadn't thought about. You're framing their environment in a world they hadn't seen. No one else has done that because they're talking about how many certs they got or how they got their L&D. And next thing you know, like, we got to talk more to this lady. So there you go. Merry Christmas.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So there you have it. And for all intents and purposes, that's it. Sean, last one. Okay, so last 5-6 minutes, what questions do you have?
And you guys can feel free to jump off mute or you can type it in the chat and I can read it out.
I'll jump in. That's always the first person who won't ask. If you found yourself in an organization where you're feeling like I'm being treated, maybe you don't think you're the L&D person, but you're being treated like the L&D person, where everyone, they only ask you, hey, how many people took the class, and then they kind of are dismissing you. Where might you start to rebuild your brand around, I'm here to help with more than just the learning part and want to help with the revenue part?
Okay, so just for clarity, you are in an enablement.
You're in sales enablement, you're doing enablement, but people are like, how many people took the class this week? And then when you're trying to talk about, hey, what metric did we move? They're like, yeah, you're here, you're the training person. Where might you start?
Okay. I'm pausing and breathing heavy because that's a big question and it's very situationally dependent, and I'm always afraid to give people the wrong advice. I think what I would do, and again, Christine, if you'd like to ask me more questions and I can dig in, feel free to Keenan at Sales Growth. So someone put my thing in there, you can reach out to me. I think what I would do is I would start with okay. I'm assuming that this is going on because, and don't get mad at me, Christine, but I'm assuming you really don't have the full operating system underneath, and so they're not feeling it. So they're defaulting to what they see, right, wrong, or indifferent. They're defaulting to what they see, and that's you're the training person. So what I would do is I'd step back and do a full-fledged assessment of my org in relationship to what I just taught you. Is there an operating system here? How am I connecting to outcomes? What am I missing? What's not here? How much is on me? How much is on organization? What am I asking for, et cetera? And I'd take that and then I'd spin that into a plan to begin to figure out how to connect what you have to best of breed, right? So I do a lot of behind the scenes work, and then I would go to them and I'd fall on my sword, assuming you have some ownership on this, but I'm never afraid to say I fucked up and say, listen, I've been doing some thinking. We have a lot of good stuff. This is, by the way, gap selling current state, future state. We have a lot of good stuff. But I recognize we're lacking these things. Because we're lacking these things, this is why we're not seeing what we should be. Growth in this, again, I would ask questions about win rates and blah, blah, blah. And so I want to reorient the organization, and this is what I need from you. But in addition, I need to understand that in this process, this is not enablement being a course creator. This is about us building enablement as fuel, as rocket fuel, to drive these metrics. We have 9 of them, by the way, in the book, so you can go look at those and assess where you are. And so that's what I would probably do is I would assess, I would identify where the org today isn't optimized, where those around the org aren't supporting it as it should, and I'd create a plan to get there, and I would then show why that plan is going to make a difference in the things that matter to the CRO. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know if that was helpful because I know it's very political, but that's the framework for where I'd start.
I'm probably personally less in that universe, but I know there's always pieces of that where you're trying to course correct. And I know for folks who are maybe quiet or because again, I think there's a lot of truths that were just dropped today. So just trying to figure out like if, if you're feeling like, hey, I might be that L&D person who's not moving the needle. How do I start to rebuild those internal relationships so I can be more accountable and folks can see me that way? Because I know that's a hard thing to do if you find yourself, I have at other organizations. I've definitely found myself at other organizations, been looked at as like you do onboarding and I'm like I do a lot more than onboarding. So I'm much more cautious later in my career. I approach that very differently now, but I know it's a common challenge for folks. So, yeah.
Great point, and you triggered me. Great job. Give them the book. So when it comes out, if you're in that situation, everybody give them the book because the book is actually almost more written for the CRO. Because I blame CROs as much as enablement. You build these people, you hire these people, like you put that in place. It's your job. So if she messed up the enablement piece, that's on her, right? Even though she'll try to blame enablement. The second thing is we have a paper called The Modern CRO. And it breaks this all down and basically says how CROs are screwing up. And it ties back to this idea that too many CROs are creating the environment that they're in. And it also highlights good CROs from bad. We recognize there are 3 types of CROs across 5 different types of environments. So imagine like a heroic in a tailwind. They could look better than they are. Imagine a compounding in a tailwind. So you could have a CRO who only grew 1%. I'm sorry, but they're a headwind. They're in a headwind environment, but their compounding only grew 1%, where the rest of the industry fell 20. They're geniuses, but no one sees it. Right? So go download that. All right. Sorry, Michelle.
No, you're all good. Keenan, thank you so much for joining. We're just a minute over. So all of those things you mentioned, all of those links, everyone will make sure that we get those links out to you for his new book, for the white paper, for his other books. Keenan, this was fantastic. Thank you so much. And everybody who joined, thank you so much for being here. The recording will be made available. And hope you have a good rest of your week, everyone.
Thank you. Was this helpful?
Yes, of course.
Definitely.
We need 3 more of these, Keenan. We'll make it happen.
All right, excellent. Anytime. My pleasure.
All right, take care, everybody.